We use this facility to train growers as well as college students in organic farming methods. The WVU Organic Research Farm project started in 1999 and depended on some initial research grants from the Northeast Sustainable Ag Research and Education Program. The Northeast SARE program renewed that grant, and we ended up with our first 6-7 years of funding from Northeast SARE. We've had other SARE projects here, and we've had other kinds of research grant support as well. And a lot of the work is critically dependent on that research grant funding. The project would not have happened without the SARE funding that we got in 1999. Much of my research is involved here at the West Virginia University Organic Research Farm, where we're studying new ways of managing crops and livestock organically and testing different organic methods to find out which work the most effectively. So today we are starting a new research experiment with sheep. Our goal is to evaluate different pasture forages to determine whether they provide any protection to the sheep against some of their intestinal parasites. Most of the synthetic deworming medications are not allowed in organic agriculture, and so we're trying to find natural methods of suppressing intestinal parasites. One of the factors that we're working on is to look at different pasture forages. And we have an experiment where we're comparing bird's foot trefoil, which has the beautiful yellow flowers, against red clover. In addition to a different color of flower, the bird's foot trefoil contains high levels of compounds called condensed tannins. These condensed tannins will precipitate proteins, and they help to boost the immunity of the sheep to these intestinal parasites. Other projects that we're working on here include some long-term farming system studies. We're looking at organic methods for disease and insect control. We have some fairly exotic studies comparing biofuel crops or some other exotic crops. We've looked at quinoa. We have a project with organic hemp production, industrial hemp. So trying to find new crops and new markets for organic growers. We just finished a research project looking at disease control in strawberry that was SARE funded. I believe Dr. Jett will be talking about some of his green bean trials, evaluating heirloom varieties of green beans. And we've had other small projects from a range of different funding.
This is where we do a lot of our horticulture projects. It's close to campus. We don't always look exclusively at organic production practices, but a lot of the SARE grants that we've been fortunate to get, evaluating some of these crops that we're interested in organically is an advantage. So beans have been grown in West Virginia, which is Central Appalachia, for hundreds and hundreds of years, almost 1,000 years, by Native Americans, by pioneers, by the first settlers in the mountains here, and then even today by West Virginia gardeners and farmers across the state. We are trying to preserve this genetic diversity for the present and for the future. To take these old-time crops, these heritage varieties, and we're trying to marry them with new production practices so that a farmer can grow these crops commercially and sell them to people across the state, across the region, even across the United States. These are unique to West Virginia, but they're going to have to be hand-picked. So labor is an issue. So what we have done is we've redesigned the trellis on these beans so that we angle them out about 35 degrees so that the pods hang out from the canopy, and people that are picking them can come in there and immediately pick the beans very efficiently. Our research has shown that we've improved harvest efficiency by at least 50% by this trellis design. Yields have been increased with these trellis designs. So we're really excited about the results that we've seen so far. So we're taking these old-time varieties, some are better than others, we're putting them on these trellises and we're turning them into a commercial crop. We're growing them, as you can see in the background, on plastic mulch with drip irrigation. So we're using new production practices with old-time varieties, and so far it's been really successful, and we're very thankful to SARE for funding this partnership grant. So we have 4 farms in this area in north central West Virginia, that are using our trellis designs and using the varieties that we recommended, we have selected, and we're working very closely with them on improving the harvest efficiency and growing these varieties. Some of these farms have turned these trellises into a U-pick bean operation where people come to the farm and they're able to pick very easily these half-runner beans, these pole beans, on these slanted or angled trellises that we have. So the farmers have been very excited about the results of this project. They've been picking high quality beans very efficiently, and so they're excited about continuing to use these trellis designs and these varieties that we recommended, funded through the SARE project in the future.
I oversee all of our controlled environments on campus, which includes the greenhouse, plant growth chambers, coolers, and freezers. And primarily these resources are used for teaching and research purposes. And my job is just to kind of make sure that they're functional, that people get the space they need for the requirements that they have, and that we keep the facilities in shape for research and teaching and extension service activities. Grant funding is extremely important for the education and research that we do at universities. Specifically right now we have a Northeast SARE funded project that's funding a graduate student and undergraduate students to work on the project. And it allows us to do the research that kind of translates between the hardcore science and then the end result, which is the information that the farmer or grower needs in order to make advancements in their production. And without those kind of funding sources, we're not able to do that type of research at the quality and the caliber that we need to. So the current project that we have funded by Northeast SARE is basically taking an iron-coated sand and incorporating it into the horticultural industry. And we do it by two mechanisms. The sand is used under the pots to collect leachate that contains phosphorus, because the sand absorbs phosphorus. And the other mechanism is to actually have the coated sand with phosphorus on it incorporated into the potting mix to potentially provide phosphorus to the plants during production. And like I said, I have a graduate student, Rhiannon, who's a master's student working on this, and she's being funded by the project and is not only getting the experience of the research, but also this will springboard her career and her potential things that she can do afterwards, in addition to some publications. The really nice thing about it from my perspective for her and for us as researchers on the project is that we get to interact with growers, we get to interact with fertilizer companies, we get to interact with the industry, and as we're doing this process, we get to kind of tweak and modify our objectives to meet what they say their needs are. And the end result is we get to work with them with this product to see if it's going to work in their production environment in terms of their setting. So it's a really nice opportunity to do, like I said, the hardcore science, but also marry it with industry needs and what they would like to see. So growers or farmers that are interested in things that are happening at the university, just go to the website, pick up the phone, give us a call, shoot us an email. We're really open. I mean, that's part of our role in academia, is to disseminate the information we learn. And we love to interact with growers. I get some of my best ideas from conversations with growers where they tell me, obviously I'm concerned about how's their profitability, how are they doing, how's their business. But then we just start kind of conversations about how is it going, what are you struggling with? And that leads to ideas for me of mechanisms that I can potentially help them or directions I can steer them in terms of finding more information. And it really is supposed to be a collaborative entity. We're not supposed to just keep to ourselves at the university. We're supposed to go out and interact. And we love it when they come to us and interact. So if you are a grower interested in learning more about what's happening at your university, start searching and looking, but feel free to call, to contact, participate in programs like Master Gardeners, other types of extension activities that happen on campus, open houses, farm field days. There's plenty of opportunity, I think, to interact. You just have to be willing to go do that. And hopefully, too, you'll also see publications in trade magazines and other things from universities that talk about some of the projects they're working on, including ones from the Northeast SARE.